Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming SCS exams happening in February 2025. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for SCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. Today's session is going to be a bit long because we have to cover a lot. So first things first, I'm going to teach you answering and time management technique. And after I've taught you these technicalities, I take you through a free mock exam, thereby explaining how to apply these answering and time management techniques in a practical sense. And I expect you to repeat these techniques over and over across the 6 mock exams when you are conducting your preparations. And also, I will highlight about, give me a second, please. Someone's mic is on. Hope you guys can keep your mic mute, folks. Thank you very much. So, sorry about that. So also I will highlight certain tips about what you need to do to overcome your failures, because when conducting preparations, students face certain issues. I will be highlighting all these issues, and for each issue I will provide solutions so that you can avoid these elements when conducting your preparations in the upcoming 5 weeks. Also, at the very end, I will share a 5-week study plan with you. And if you stick to the study plan, we can guarantee your pass. So these are the elements which will be covered in today's webinar. And, before I teach you the answering and time management techniques, let me quickly, explain what I'm going to cover in the upcoming webinars and workshops which we have scheduled for you. So in the upcoming webinar exam prep, I will be taking you through examiner's comments with the intention of making sure that you gain a good understanding of what the examiner expects from you when conducting preparations and at your real exam. Also, I will share some tips which will ensure that you gain a high level of confidence when conducting your preparations, which is crucial to succeed at your real examination. Also, I will share stress management techniques in next week's webinar, which is happening on Saturday at the same time. And I will also highlight about the workshops which we are conducting on a weekly basis. We are conducting 3 workshops focused on each syllabus element or each pillar. And, at these workshops, I will be taking you through questions and answers pertaining to your E3, F3, and P3 syllabi so that you gain a good understanding of how to tackle each question. And also, I will be opening up for Q&As, because by the time you are attending these workshops, you should be done with 1 or 2 mock exams as per our original 8-week study plan. So, definitely you will have questions, and I will address all these questions and concerns at these workshops. And the final workshop, which happens 2 or 3 days before your examination, I will be sharing last-minute tips with you to make sure that you walk into your exam with a positive mindset. All right, so make use of these free resources on offer. Attend these weekly webinars and workshops with the intention of keeping track of your performance, and at the same time benefiting from all the techniques which I'm going to share via these webinars and workshops. All right, so let's try to figure out what you need to do when it comes to developing answers at your examination. So first things first, you need to read through the scenario. So, this is how your examination is going to be structured. As I mentioned in the first webinar, your examination is divided into 3 main parts, and the time allocation for each section is 60 minutes. And under each main section or each main task, you will see 2 or 3 subtasks. So that's exactly what you can see here. In section number 1, there are 3 subtasks. In the second one, there are just 2 subtasks. And in the third section, again, there are 3 subtasks. Okay. So your knowledge is tested in an extremely practical manner. And as I've mentioned earlier, the examiner is trying to replicate a real-life corporate environment. So it's as if you are receiving an email from one of the board members or a senior manager within your organization. So usually your questions are developed in an email format, as you can see in here. That's the exact same format which you can see. So there's a scenario which you need to go through, and there are the questions are developed as requirements under each scenario. And also you'd gain access to a reference material, which gives you added information about what is highlighted within each scenario. So according to your answering technique, your first step is to read through the scenario. And when reading through the scenario, you need to make sure that you read through reference material as well, because in each section, you will, have access to one or two reference material. So always remember, not just the scenario, you need to go through the reference material as well. And in each section, there will be one or two reference material. So you need to allocate 5 minutes of your time to read through the scenario and the reference material. And after doing so, you are supposed to focus your attention towards developing answers. So when it comes to developing answers, the first step should be to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. Okay, so let's go back to the question or the scenario. As I mentioned earlier, your knowledge is tested as requirements. So let's look at the first requirement. You are supposed to explain the financial analyst's comments with regards to introducing the new eco extraction service into Rotomyne's operations. So before you start addressing the requirement, you are supposed to simplify this requirement with the intention of making sure that you gain a clear understanding of the requirement. And at the same time, it makes your life easy when you have a simplified requirement, because halfway through your answer, if you want to check whether you are headed in the correct direction, you can always refer back to a simplified requirement and easily figure out whether your answer is 100% aligned with the requirement. So how are you supposed to do this in a practical manner? So I've reiterated the requirement in a concise manner in my own words. Financial analysts' comments introducing eco extraction. So just like what I've done, you are supposed to simplify the requirement. So let's look at the second subtask. Evaluate the CEO's suggestion with regards to the bonus. So simplify it simply as directors' bonuses. Then the third subtask reads as recommend comprehensive strategies for Rotomyne to effectively manage stakeholder pressures created due to environmental issues. Simplify it as strategies to manage stakeholder pressure. So when you do this, it makes your life easy. You can gain a clear understanding of the requirement. And as I mentioned earlier, whilst developing the answer, you can always refer back to a simplified requirement and easily figure out whether your answer is aligned with each requirement. So that is your first step. First things first, you are supposed to read through the scenario, which takes 5 minutes of your time. And then you are supposed to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. After doing so, you need to focus your attention towards developing headings and subheadings. So you have reiterated each requirement. Now you know what you're supposed to address. And before you start developing something called an answer plan, in a little while, you'd understand what I'm talking about, what an answer plan is. So before you start developing the answer or the answer plan, you are supposed to develop headings and subheadings. So you need to come up with a heading which is in bold and underlined format for each subtask. So in a section, if there are 3 subtasks, you need to have 3 main headings. And in a certain section, if there are just 2 subtasks, then in your answer, you need to have 2 main headings. So per subtask, you need to come up with a main heading, which is in bold and underlined format. And, if you feel under a certain subtask, if you feel that you need to further fraction out your answer, you are welcome to use subheadings, which should be in bold format. So per subtask, you need to come up with a main heading, which should be in bold and underlined format. And under each subtask, you can come up with subheadings. If so, it should be in bold format. After you had sorted out your headings and subheadings, you need to start developing your answer. Thereby, you need to allocate something like 30 minutes to develop the entire answer plan concerning the entire section. So looking at section number 1, there are, within this mock exam, looking at section number 1, there are 3 main subtasks. So you need to have 3 main headings, which are in bold and underlined format within your answer. And when it comes to developing something called an answer plan or answer structure, you need to allocate 30 minutes of your time to develop the answer plan or the answer structure for all 3 subtasks. So, when developing this answer plan, you are supposed to determine how much marks are allocated for each and every subtask. So let's see how we are supposed to do it. So as you can see, there are certain weightages provided under each subtask. So subtask A carries a weightage of 30%, subtask B 20%, and subtask C 50%. So by looking at this, you can easily understand how much marks are allocated, because in total, 50 marks are allocated for each section. So there are 3 sections in your paper. So 50 into 3 comes up to 150 marks in total. So each section carries 50 marks. So these weightages indicate how much marks are allocated on a subtask by subtask basis. So you can see it in here within our answer plan, which we have developed for mock exam 1. So the weightage provided for the first subtask is 30%. That's exactly what you can see here. The weightage provided for the second subtask is 20%, and the weightage provided for the third subtask is 50%. That's exactly what you can see in here. Okay, so once you know the weightages, now you can determine how much marks are allocated for each subtask. So as I mentioned earlier, 50 marks are allocated for each section. So 30% of 50 marks comes up to 15 marks in total. 20% of 50 marks come up to 10 marks in total. And 50% of 50 marks come up to 25 marks in total. So before you start developing the answer plan, you are supposed to understand how much marks are allocated for each subtask, and based on these marks allocated for each subtask, you need to understand how many points you need to include under each and every subtask. So each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So if you want to gain 15 marks, you need to come up with something like 5 to 7 valid points for the first subtask. So the mark allocation is 15 marks. Each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So in order to gain full marks, you need to come up with 5 to 7 valid points for the first subtask. And then let's look at the second subtask. The mark allocation is 10. So each valid point carries 2 to 3 marks. So in order to gain full marks, you need to come up with 3 to 5 points under the second subtask. And for the final subtask, the mark allocation is 25. And each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So in order to gain 25 marks, you need to come up with something like 9 to 12 valid points within your answer for the third subtask. So before you develop the answer plan, you need to understand mark allocations, and based on these mark allocations, you are supposed to understand how many points you need to include within each and every subtask. So when you adhere to this type of a methodology, you are making sure to develop answers which are totally aligned with mark allocations. Therefore, your answers will not be too short or too long. Your answers will be of the ideal size, and it will carry the required number of points, which will ensure that you gain the most amount of marks at your examination. All right, so that's your fourth step. Before you develop the answer plan, you are supposed to determine mark allocations based on weightages provided, and based on these weightages, you are supposed to determine marks. And once you know how much marks are allocated, you can easily stipulate or determine how many points should appear under each subtask, because as I mentioned earlier, each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks per answer point. And once you know this, you then know how much points you need to include within your answer for each and every subtask. And based on this guidance, you are supposed to develop your answer plans. And when developing your answer plans, develop them on the answer screen itself. Do not use the scratch pad. Why am I discouraging you to develop answer plans within the scratch pad? Simply given the fact that it leads you to complexities when you are shifting between two screens. You'd have to shift between your answer screen and the scratch pad, which will expose you to inefficiencies. So I want you to avoid all types of inefficiencies at your real examination, because you will be operating in in a time pressured environment. You have to sit in one place and have a go at 3 sections across 3 hours, which is not easy. After learning answering and time management techniques in today's session, you are supposed to replicate these techniques when attempting the mock exams. You need to stick to a similar methodology at your real exam as well. So you'd be repeating answering and time management techniques across 3 hours, which is again not easy. So when you are trying to focus a lot, when you are operating in a time pressured environment, you have to take steps to avoid all unnecessary distractions or issues as much as possible. So when developing the answer plan, develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself, because when it comes to expanding this answer plan in paragraph form, your life becomes easy. You will make sure that all points which appear within the answer plan um, uh, you know appears within your final answer as well. Because let's assume you utilize the scratch pad and you determine that you need to allocate, you need to come up with 9 points for a certain subtask, and you actually came up with 9 points. But when typing out the fully fledged answer, because you are under stress, you missed out on one of the points which you included in your answer plan, because you were shifting between two answers, two screens. You missed out on a certain point which you decided to include, but in your final answer, it does not appear. So why should you avoid coming up with high quality answers? Why should you miss out on certain points when you have the opportunity of developing the entire answer within the answer screen itself? So when developing the answer plan, do not use the scratch pad. If you want to, come up with short notes focused on the information presented in the scenario, you can utilize your scratch pad. But when it comes to developing answer plans or structuring your answer, do not use the scratch pad. Do up your answer plan on the answer screen itself. And once you have an answer structure, or once you have planned out your answer, then utilizing your remaining time, which is 25 minutes, you are supposed to expand the answer plan. So you are supposed to expand each point in paragraph form. So if there are 9 valid points within your answer plan for a certain subtask, then in your final answer, you need to have 9 paragraphs. So per valid point, you need to develop a paragraph. So if you decided to include 9 valid points in your answer plan, then in your final answer, you need to have 9 paragraphs. And on top of that, if you included in a certain subtask, if you plan to include 12 valid points, then in your final answer, you need to have 12 different paragraphs. So don't write the entire answer in one single paragraph, because then the marker will have to pick and select how many points you have included within your answer. So make the life of the marker easy, because if so, you'd be in the good books of the marker. If that is the case, you'll get good marks at your real examination. So stick to these techniques, not just myself. I'm not the person who is coming up with these techniques. The CIMA examiner has also mentioned similar techniques when it comes to developing answers. You will gain a better understanding of all these elements in next week's webinar. So develop paragraphs, and for each valid point, come up with a paragraph. Then the marker can easily see how many points you have included, and out of the points which you have included, how many are accurate and how many are inaccurate. Okay, so that's what you are supposed to do when it comes to developing answers at your exam. Although you have learned this right now, you won't master it unless and otherwise you practice these techniques when attempting the 6 mock exams, because although I'm asking you to develop answer plans within 30 minutes, when you try to do it for the first time, you will take 40 to 45 minutes. So it's not easy. You need to master it. So when you learn any type of new technique, or if you're trying to do something new, then in order to master it, you need to keep practicing any type of technique out there. So that's exactly what you are supposed to do, focused on this answering technique as well. All right. So then As I mentioned earlier, the headings should be in bold and underline format, and the subheadings should be in bold format. And you have to be concerned about your typing speed as well, because if you are capable of typing out 20 words per minute, then you are capable of managing your time at your real examination. Some of you might struggle with this. However, don't worry, because what you can do is there's so many free platforms out there online which you can utilize with the intention of improving your typing speed. And on top of that, simply you can purchase a newspaper and every day allocate an hour and type out what appears within the newspaper on your computer or your laptop, which is another way which can be used to improve your typing speed. So if you are struggling with typing speed, in order to pass this exam, you need to allocate 1 hour each day to focus on improving your typing speed. And as I mentioned earlier, your final answer should be in paragraph form, and each valid point, focused on each valid point, you need to develop a paragraph, and each paragraph should consist of 2 to 4 line sentences. And do not spend time on formatting. The only type of formatting which you need to be conversant with is with regards to headings being in bold and underline format and subheadings in bold format. And per answer point, developing a paragraph which consists of 2 to 4 line sentences. Other than that, you need not look at any other type of formatting. And always remember, the examiner is giving you marks looking at the quality of your answer, not the quantity. I've seen tutors out there talking about a word count or a word limit based on the weightages. It makes absolutely no sense, because as I mentioned earlier, the CIMA examiner is trying to replicate a real-life corporate environment. So in a real-life corporate environment, it's as if you are receiving an email from your boss. So, when you are coming up with your response, or when reading your response rather, will your manager or will your boss be concerned about the length of your answer, or will he or she look at the quality of your answer or the content of the answer? So the marker is going to look at the quality of your answer or the content of your answer. So don't think in terms of a word count. Instead, you need to think in terms of answer points, which are totally aligned with the mark allocations and the weightages. All right, so this is the answering technique which you need to be concerned with, or you need to master these techniques in order to succeed at your real examination. Okay, so let's have a look at how your exam platform works. So us at TCS, we have developed an exam platform which is akin to the Pearson VUE system on which you'd attempt your real examination. So these are screenshots taken from our exam platform, and you'd see a screen like this. And once you click on the begin button, your mock exam starts, and you'd see a timer on top, which runs down. It starts counting down from 60 minutes, because the time allocation for each section is 60 minutes. And you will also see the section number. Out of 3 sections, you are in section number 1. And you will also see 4 different buttons. You will gain access to a calculator by clicking on this button, and you have access to a scratch pad as well. If you want to type something out based on scenarios information, you can use the scratch pad. Other than that, when it comes to developing answers, don't use the scratch pad. Develop the answers within the answer screen itself. And you will also gain access to 2 other buttons, the reference material and the pre-seen button. So once you click on the reference material button, you will gain access to the additional material within this screen itself. So onto the right, somewhere around here, the reference material will appear, which gives you additional information about what is highlighted within the scenario. And you also have access to the pre-seen document by clicking on this button. So if you want to check something concerning what appeared within the pre-seen, you can always do so at your real examination. And once you are done with the scenario, once you have gone through the entire scenario, click on the next button. Once you do so, you'd be directed to your answer screen. And within the answer screen, Again, you'd see the timer and the section number as well as the 4 different buttons. So you have the opportunity of accessing the reference material and the pre-seen document within this answer screen itself. So you need not always go back to the scenario to read through the scenario or gain access to the reference material. You have access to all this information within the answer screen as well. So if you want to go back, you can click on previous and go back to the scenario, or else you can simply click on the reference material button, and onto the right of your answer screen, the reference material will appear. And also, once you click on the pre-seen button, you will gain access to the pre-seen document onto the right of your answer screen. And at the same time, if you want to go through the section or the requirement or the task under the pre-seen button, you will also gain access to your requirement or the task. Okay, so you need not, after reading through the scenario, you need not go back to the requirement. Instead, all information, the reference material, the pre-seen, as well as the requirement or task, all information appears onto the right side of your answer screen. So this makes your life easy when it comes to developing answers, because as per our answering technique, you are supposed to allocate 30 minutes of your time to develop the answer plan. So develop the answer plan in here on the answer screen itself. And whilst doing so, if you want to gain some information from the pre-seen or the reference material or the requirement, you can easily do so, because a pop-up will appear onto your right once you click on either of these buttons. And once you're done with your answer plan, your next step should be to, as per our answering technique, allocating or utilizing your remaining 25 minutes, you are supposed to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. And once you're done with your answer, you need to click on submit answer. And once you click on it, you would be directed to section number 2. And, you can submit your answer and move forward if you had completed your requirement, or if you have completed your answer in less than 60 minutes. However, if you have taken 60 minutes, then once the timer runs out, you will be automatically directed to section number 2. And once you are in section number 2, you can't see a previous button because you can't go back. So that's exactly why, when thinking in terms of managing time, you need to be considerate about the time allocation for each section rather than thinking about 3 hours in its entirety. Because once you are in a single section, let's assume you are in section number 1, you have 60 minutes. So you need to come up with a plan to manage these 60 minutes, because once you are in section number 2, then you can't go back to your previous section. So, and once you click on next, then you would be directed to the answer screen pertaining to section number 2. And the same will appear in section number 3 as well. So this is how your exam platform works. You will need some practice to get your bearings with the exam platform as well. So that's exactly why we have developed an exam platform, which is the exact replica of the Pearson system on which you attempt your real examination. So it makes your life easy when it comes to, attempting all 6 mock exams via this exam platform, because then you can easily master your answering and time management technique. All right, so this is how the exam platform looks like. And before I take you through the mock exam, thereby highlighting how to implement these answering and time management techniques in a practical sense, let me quickly remind you what we offer at TCS. So we are on the SCS page. If you're yet to check our free content, click on this button and create a free user account. And once you have created a free user account, this button will read as Access Dashboard. Click on it and go to My Courses. And in front of SCS Free, you'd see an Access Content button. Click on it, and then you'd gain access to all the material which appears under the SCS Free package. You'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops which we conduct via the free content. You will gain access to the study material, the answer plan of the free mock exam. And on top of that, after this session, I will upload the pre-seen mind map, because I already shared it with you last week via the WhatsApp group. I will upload it after this session. And you will also gain access to the free mock exam, the question and the suggested answer, which is in paragraph form. This is how your answers should look like when you had finalized your answer. And then under the exams tab, you have the opportunity of attempting mock number 1 under exam conditions via our exam platform, which is the best way to practice your answering and time management techniques. So, make use of this opportunity and test whether you are capable of managing your time, whether you are capable of replicating the techniques which I've taught you right now, and you'd gain a better understanding after I'd taken you through one of the questions which appear within mock number 1. So try to see whether you are in a position to implement the same techniques in a practical sense. By attempting your free mock exam via the exam platform, you will understand what your shortcomings are, and you need to work towards overcoming these shortcomings when attempting the remaining 5 mock exams as well. Okay, so that's what we offer under the premium, under the free content. Then before you invest on our paid content, check our sample material so that you gain a good understanding of what we offer. And if you're yet to join the SCS WhatsApp discussion forum, click on this button and join it. Via this group, you can engage yourself with group learning. And at the same time, I will be sharing codes of free resources with you. I will also keep you guys informed about webinar commencement dates and commencement times. Also, if you have any questions or concerns, always drop a message. I'm there to help you guys out. All right, so talking about what we offer 2 packages, the value pack and the premium pack. The value pack is designed for those who had completed their OTQ examinations, E3, F3, and P3 exams. So since you have completed your OTQs, you are aware of the theoretical elements. You have a good knowledge about theoretical elements. You simply need to work on your application skills in order to excel at this exam. So if you opt for the value pack, you'd gain access to the recordings of all webinars and workshops, which are conducted on a weekly basis. You will also gain access to 6 mock exams with suggested answers. So on top of the free mock exam, you will gain access to 5 additional mock exams. And we have made sure to cover all syllabus elements when developing these 6 mocks to make sure that you are aware of how each syllabus area is tested at your SCS examination. You will also gain access to 3 pre-scene analysis videos. As you know, your pre-scene is divided into 3 main parts. In the first part, there's an industry analysis. In the second part, there's information about the internal dynamics of your chosen company, Rotomyne. And in the third part, you'd see the financial statements of Rotomyne and its closest competitor. So focused on each of these parts, we have developed 3 pre-scene analysis videos. And once you have watched these pre-scene analysis videos, you will gain an in-depth understanding of the information which appears within your pre-scene. You will also gain access to industry and financial analysis slides. Let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. Along with it, you'd also gain access to the annotated pre-scene. So this is what our annotated pre-scene looks like. So we have come up with tutor annotations with the intention of summarizing the information which appears within the pre-scene, which makes your life easy when it comes to understanding the information presented within your pre-scene. And at the same time, we have also highlighted probable exam scenarios which can be tested at the exam based on hints provided by the CIMA examiner. Also, as part of these annotations, we have mentioned probable syllabus elements which can be tested as well. So once you go through these annotations, you will gain a good understanding of the entire pre-scene, and at the same time, you will gain an understanding about probable exam scenarios which can be thrown at you at your real exam, and the syllabus elements which can be tested at your examination. So this is what our annotated pre-scene looks like. Then taking you through the industry analysis slides, I've actually explained these things in the second webinar because I've already conducted an industry and pre-scene analysis based on these resources. So I'm going to quickly mention what appears within each resource. So in the industry analysis slides, you'd see 4 main sections. In the first part, we have defined your industry. And in the second part, we have explained facts and figures about the competitive landscape of your chosen industry. And we have also mentioned about industry trends, based on these industry trends, scenarios will be tested at your real examination. And at the very end, we have provided examples of 2 real-life companies so that you gain a better understanding of how real-life companies operate within your chosen industry. And looking at the financial analysis slides at the very end of your pre-scene, you would have seen the financial statements of your own company and its closest competitor. So we have evaluated each financial statement in depth, yet making sure to keep things simple so that you can easily understand what appears within each financial statement. So we have evaluated all 3 financial statements. And at the very end, we have conducted a ratio analysis. Again, we have evaluated each ratio, comparing Rotomyne's performance with its closest competitors so that you gain a good understanding of where we stand as a company in a financial sense. So these are the resources on offer under the value pack. You'd also gain access to top 20 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable syllabus elements or scenarios which can be tested at your exam. You will also gain access to a case study familiarization kit. So once you go through this kit, within 10 to 15 minutes, you will gain an in-depth understanding of the technicalities behind your SCS exam. You will also gain access to a tutor-managed live chat and OTQ revision cards. So the value pack is designed, as I mentioned earlier, for those who have already learned their theory and those who are comfortable with self-learning. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you didn't do well in certain subtasks, simply refer to these OTQ revision cards with the intention of brushing up your theoretical knowledge in a jiffy, which is the best way to conduct your revision, because if you spend a lot of time to go through your past notes or bulky study texts, you'd be wasting a lot of time. You only have 5 weeks at your disposal. So in order to make your life easy, we have developed these OTQ revision cards. So the value pack is priced at £299. And talking about the premium pack is designed for those who are coming through exemptions as well as those who had failed the SCS exam previously. So both types of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and issues with application. So if you don't know all theoretical elements and how each syllabus element can be tested at the exam, there's an extremely low chance of you passing this examination. And on top of that, if you don't know how to apply these theoretical elements when developing your answers, you will not pass this exam. So with the intention of teaching you all theoretical elements and making sure that you know how to apply each theoretical element at your real exam, we have developed additional resources and included them under the premium pack. So on top of what you'd get your hands on under the value pack, you'd also gain access to our online mock exam platform, on which you can attempt all 6 mock exams under exam conditions, which is the best way to fine-tune your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. So I'm going to teach you stress management techniques next week. And once we are done with next week's webinar, you are supposed to, on top of replicating answering and time management techniques, whenever you feel stressed, you are supposed to practice stress management techniques when attempting your mock exams as well. So the best way to practice and master these 3 techniques is to attempt each mock exam under exam conditions via our exam platform. You will also gain access to one-on-one tutor feedback on the last 3 mock exams, mocks 4, 5, and 6. So although you are expected to develop answer plans within 30 minutes, you will struggle with it when you are practicing these techniques for the first time. So you will struggle with the first 3 mock exams, especially concerning the answering and time management technique. But from mock 4 onwards, you will never run out of time. You will know how to structure your answers. You have a good understanding of answering and time management. So from mock 4 onwards, we are providing tutor feedback to thereby checking whether you have the ability of developing high quality answers. And when providing tutor feedback, our objective is to make sure that you understand your shortcomings, because if you don't understand your shortcomings, you cannot work towards overcoming them. So let me quickly show you the type of feedback we offer at TCS. So as you can see, we have evaluated each point in depth, and if there's an issue, we have highlighted the issue. Not just highlighted the issue, we have also mentioned how you can overcome each issue as part of these annotations. So that's exactly why I take 2.5 to 3 hours to mark a paper, because I have to spend a lot of time to really make sure that you understand your shortcomings, and you know what to do to overcome each of your shortcomings. Okay, so this is the type of feedback you'd receive as well if you opt for the premium pack. And at the very end, we have allocated marks on a subtask by subtask basis. We have also indicated the success rate. So by looking at the yellow highlighted areas, you can easily understand the subtasks in which your performance was substandard. So after receiving tutor feedback, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans on your own. You will understand what I'm talking about in a little while, because I'm going to take you through a part of the answer plan which we have developed for mock number 1. Then you'd know what answer plans are. So after receiving tutor feedback, focused on the subtasks which are highlighted in yellow, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans. So this is the best type of revision you should engage yourself with the intention of with the primary intention of overcoming your shortcomings. And at the very end, we provide general comments as well. So as you can see, this student has gotten only 32.5 marks for this mock exam, but the same student ended up passing the SCS exam, because although you will score low marks when attempting your mock exams, however, you need not worry, because if you focus your attention towards revising, thereby trying to enhance your answer structures, trying to work, if you try to work on your answering technique, although you get low marks for the mock exams, you will gain a pass at your real examination. All right, so that's the type of feedback you'd gain access to under the premium pack. And you'd also gain access to answer plans of all 6 mock exams. In a little while, you'd see what an answer plan looks like. And you'd also gain access to 15 masterclasses. So from mocks 2 to 6, we have developed masterclasses focused on each section which appears within each of our mocks from mocks 2 to 6. So, different questions from mock number 1 will be covered within the free webinars and workshops which we conduct. So because of that, we have not developed master classes for mock number 1. However, from mock 2 onwards, you'd gain access to master classes. And the objective of developing these master classes is to take you through the logic of each answer, and at the same time, teach you the relevant theoretical concepts covered within each mock. Also, to make sure that you know what to do with regards to application, or you know how to apply these theoretical concepts when developing your answers. So if you have knowledge gaps and if you are struggling with application, you need not do anything. Simply watch these master classes. Then you will learn all theoretical elements across the 6 mock exams. And on top of that, you will significantly improve your application skills. And once you have access to all this content, you will pass for sure. That is why we are providing a pass guarantee for the premium pack. So if you invest on the premium pack and end up failing, you'd gain access to the premium content in your subsequent sitting free of charge. However, in order to claim the pass guarantee, you have to complete these 3 requirements. You have to complete all 6 mock exams. If not, you'd be testing your luck at your real examination. You have to be conversant with how each syllabus element can be tested at the exam. So with the intention of covering all syllabus areas, you need to attempt all 6 mock exams. If not, we cannot guarantee your pass. And when attempting each mock exam, you are not expected to go through the suggested answers, the answer plans, or the master classes. Instead, you have to do it on your own. When attempting each mock exam, try to give your best shot and try to come up with logical answers. The objective of attempting each mock exam under exam condition is to master your answering, time management, and stress management techniques, and at the same time, understand what your shortcomings are. Because after you are done with the mock exam, when you watch the master classes, you will understand, okay, this is what these are the type of answers which I developed when attempting the mock exam. However, these are the type of answers I should have developed. You'd understand how to structure these answers properly, because you'd learn theory and application by watching the master classes. So when attempting each mock exam, do it on your own. Then you will understand what your shortcomings are. And you have to meet the performance criteria for mocks 4, 5, and 6. You need to gain 40% or higher we have come up with this performance criteria to make sure that you do a serious job when attempting the last 3 mock exams, especially given the fact that you are receiving tutor feedback for them. And once you have completed these 3 requirements, you will pass for sure. That's why we provide a pass guarantee under the premium pack. So the premium pack is priced at £899, which can be paid in 2 installments of £449 each, or you can opt to pay in full and save £100. If so, the price is going to be just £799, and you can click on either of these buttons and invest on your preferred course content. All right, so those who are following our original 8-week study plan, I want to direct your attention towards what you need to do within this week. So we are in the 3rd week. This is the most hectic week as per our 8-week study plan, because in all the other weeks, as you can see, you are supposed to allocate something like 9 hours of study time per week. However, within this week, you are supposed to allocate 12 hours of study time. So you need to find 3 additional hours. Why is this the case? Because you need to attempt 2 mock exams within this week. So you are supposed to test your answering and time management techniques by attempting mock number 1 via the exam platform. Then you'd understand where you struggle and you'd understand your shortcomings. And then within the upcoming week itself, you are supposed to attempt mock number 2 via the exam platform. Once you have attempted mock number 2, watch the 3 master classes to learn theory and improve application. Once you have learned your theory and application, test your knowledge, test whether you have learned something via these master classes by redeveloping answer plans focused on mock 2. So just because you attempt the 6 mock exams, you won't pass. Instead, you need to spend time on revision, and the best type of revision you should engage with is with regards to watching the master classes in which you'd easily learn theory and application. And once you have learned theory and application, you are supposed to rework on your answer plans and see whether you have gained something from the master classes which you have watched. So within this week, you should focus your attention towards mock number 1 and mock number 2. This is the most hectic week, but from week 4 onwards, your life is going to be easy, because it's simply a matter of attempting a mock exam per week and conducting your revision focused on the same mock exam. So if you are already sticking to this study plan, within this week, you need to attempt mocks 1 and 2. Okay, and if you're yet to start your preparations, don't worry. We have developed a 5-week study plan, which I will take you through as the last part of today's webinar. Okay, so that's what we offer. And before I take you through the mock exam, its question and its answer plan, let me quickly, mention what I spoke at the inception of this session. This is the answering technique. You need to allocate 5 minutes to read through the scenario, both the scenario and the reference material. Then you need to, before you develop the answer plan, you need to reiterate each requirement in a simplified manner. Then you are supposed to develop headings and subheadings. And once you have the headings and subheadings, you have to focus your attention towards developing the answer plans. And when doing so, you need to consider the weightages provided. Based on these weightages, determine mark allocations, and based on it, determine how many points should appear under each answer. And then once you have the answer plan for the entire section, expand your answer plan in paragraph form, utilizing the remaining 25 minutes of your time. Okay, so let's look at how you are supposed to achieve this. Okay, so I'm going to direct your attention towards the last subtask, or subtask 3, which appears within our appears within the first section of mock exam 1. So on an unrelated matter, I'm sharing an article which was published on Daily Poland. Please refer to the attachment. So let's look at what appears within the attachment. So this is a newspaper article taken from Daily Poland. So let's try to figure out what appears within this newspaper article. The heading goes as Catalyst for Progress or Environmental Threat. Last week's investigative article ignited a national debate over the environmental impact of lithium mining. So the lithium mining industry is facing some type of an issue as per this newspaper article. The critical discussion explores the tension between lithium's essential role in powering the green energy transition, because when we are opting for green energy, the excess energy should be stored, and usually lithium-ion batteries are utilized to store this excess energy. So it's all good for the environment. However, this leads to environmental degradation associated with its extraction, especially concerning water consumption and landscape disruption. So similar information appeared within your pre-scene as well. A report by environmental watchdogs has signaled out the largest mining companies operating in water-scarce regions rather. While lithium is pivotal for renewable energy and electric vehicles, concerns over water depletion and ecosystem damage in these regions are escalating. The investigation highlights that despite their productivity, some mining companies' extraction methods are increasingly viewed as unsustainable by environmental advocates and local communities. So the environmental advocates and local communities are speaking against mining companies which are extracting lithium. Environmental groups have targeted industry leaders like Rotomyne and Lithium. So advocacy groups are the same as environmental groups. So these environmental groups have targeted industry leaders like Rotomyne and Lithium. So the newspaper article mentions us and our closest competitor within this article itself, which is not too good for us, accusing them of prioritizing profit over sustainability. These organizations are mounting pressure, pushing for more stringent regulatory oversight and encouraging consumers to demand greater accountability for environmental practices. The issue has gained nationwide attention, placing mining companies under intense scrutiny. Okay. In response to the growing public outcry, the government is preparing to introduce tougher environmental regulations. So the government is on board as well. So they are going to introduce tougher environmental regulations targeting water-intensive industries with lithium mining at the forefront. The proposed changes include strict water usage limitations and heavy penalties for non-compliance. So if these laws are passed, it will be detrimental for us because as per the internal dynamics of your chosen company, we are involved with traditional mining. So when doing so, we have to depend on our brine pools, which consumes a lot of water. So if these laws are passed, we might have to shift from our traditional extraction methods to modern extraction methods such as the direct lithium extraction or DLE method. The issue is the fact that it's going to be extremely expensive for us, which will impact our financials in a negative manner. The proposed changes include strict water. Okay. These regulations could significantly challenge market leaders like Rotomyne and Lithium, particularly given their large-scale operations in affected regions. So this newspaper article paints a dull picture pertaining to what we are poised to face in the future. So let's look at the requirement. You are supposed to recommend comprehensive strategies for Rotomyne to effectively manage stakeholder pressures created due to the environmental issues. Okay, so this is your requirement as per our answering technique. We are done with step number 1, which is to read through the scenario. Now we are in step number 2, which is to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the last subtask. So because of that, I'm going to only talk about how you should do this concerning the last subtask. Give me a second, please. Someone is drawing something on the screen. Okay. All right. So the second step, according to our answering technique, is to reiterate the requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So that's exactly what you can see in here. Strategies to manage stakeholder pressure. So recommend comprehensive strategies for Rotomyne to effectively manage stakeholder pressures created due to the environmental issues. So when you are under exam stress, when you have to read these type of extended or long requirements, it will expose you to a lot of inefficiencies. So in order to make your life easy, you are supposed to simplify the requirement in this manner: strategies to manage stakeholder pressure. So now you know what you're expected to achieve. So let's try to figure out how you should structure your answer. So I'm going to direct your attention towards the answer plan, which we have developed for this subtask. So as you can see, this is an answer skeleton or this is an answer structure. So Once you have access to these answer plans, it makes your life easy because you can easily understand how to structure answers. You can easily understand how to bring in theoretical knowledge, how to bring in pre-seen information. You can easily work out by yourself with regards to how to work on your application skills. Okay, so I've come up with a main heading which goes as managing stakeholders, which is in bold and underlined format. Okay, so 25 marks are allocated based on the weightage provided. So in order to gain full marks, since each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks, you need to come up with something like, I'm not too good at maths. 25 divided by 3 is something like 9 to 12 valid points within your answer. Okay, so first things first, you have to identify stakeholders in order to manage them. So you can come up with a practical answer based on the type of stakeholders mentioned within this newspaper article. And on top of that, based on the information presented, you can also understand how each stakeholder is reacting to this issue. So you can come up with a practical answer on your own. But the problem is you might not cover all angles when you are trying to do it on your own. So rather than trying to be practical, trying to come up with your own set of recommendations, it's best to identify whether you can use some type of a theoretical concept with the intention of enhancing the quality of your answer, with the intention of providing a holistic answer. So whenever you are supposed to manage stakeholders, you are supposed to utilize your knowledge concerning what appears within your E3 syllabus under the Mendelow's matrix. Okay, so let me quickly remind you what the Mendelow matrix is all about. So as per the Mendelow matrix, we have to categorize each stakeholder before we try to manage each type of stakeholder. So when categorizing stakeholders, we have to consider the level of interest of each stakeholder and the level of power of each stakeholder. So we have to determine whether the level of interest, whether the interest is low or high, and concerning each stakeholder or stakeholder group, we need to consider whether their power, whether it's low or high as well. And based on it, we categorize each stakeholder or stakeholder group into 4 main elements or different quadrants. So if there are a set of stakeholders who carry a low level of interest and low level of power, we need not worry too much about these stakeholders because they are not interested in the first place. And at the same time, they don't have power to do anything against us. So because of that, we need not exert a lot of influence or effort. That is why the strategy reads as minimal effort. So let's try to understand another set of stakeholders who has a low level of power but a high level of interest. So when dealing with these type of stakeholders, we have to keep these individuals informed. Why is this the case? Because since these stakeholders, although their level of power is low, since they are extremely interested in what's happening, they always try to get together with the intention of increasing their level of power. So if all these interested parties, if they get together, because of that, if their level of influence or power increases, then they will become key players. So in order to avoid such a situation, in order to avoid a situation where these individuals become key players, we have to keep them informed. So as long as we keep these type of stakeholders informed, they will be satisfied. If not, all these interested parties will get together and they will become key players. And if that is the case, we will have to satisfy these key players as and when needed. So in order to avoid such a situation, we have to keep these individuals informed. Then let's direct our attention towards the type of stakeholders who have a low level of interest and a high level of power. Usually the government falls under this quadrant. So the government is not too interested about businesses. However, they have an extremely high level of power. So with that in mind, we have to keep the government satisfied at all times. So we have to fall in line with regulation. And at the same time, we have to pay our taxes on time. If so, the government will be satisfied. They won't intervene and try to change the internal dynamics of our company. So that's a keep satisfied strategy. and there are another set of stakeholders who have a high level of power and a high level of interest. These are usually the majority stakeholders, or not stakeholders, rather the majority shareholders of any given company. So they have a high level of influence about the way in which we conduct business, because they are majority shareholders. And at the same time, since they are majority shareholders, these individuals will have a high level of interest. So we consider these type of stakeholders to be key players, and these key players should be kept satisfied at all times. We have to always listen to these individuals and see what their requirements are, and we have to make sure that we change our internal dynamics so that it is aligned with the needs of the key players of the company, who are usually the majority shareholders of any given company. So this is what the Mendelov matrix is all about. Now, when developing your answer, you need to include, so you need to include the knowledge which you have gained via the Mendelow's matrix, thereby working on your application skills. So although you have a good understanding of the Mendelow's matrix, you won't get any marks if you simply explain the Mendelow's matrix. Instead, you have to utilize this theoretical concept when developing developing your answer, with the intention of developing a holistic answer, a foolproof answer, rather than trying to attempt the answer on your own, rather than trying to develop the answer on your own. It's best to stick to a certain theoretical element which you have learned via your E3, F3, or P3 syllabi. So let's see how you should work on application concerning this question. So as I mentioned earlier, first things first, we have to identify stakeholders. Once we have identified stakeholders, then we are supposed to take steps to manage each stakeholder. So when trying to manage each stakeholder, we have to look at the level of power and interest according to Mendelow's matrix. So you need not mention about the Mendelow's matrix, because as I mentioned continuously throughout this webinar series, you are working in a real life corporate setting. So your boss is not interested to learn about theories. Your boss is not interested to know about what Mendelow's matrix is. So you need not mention about the theory. You need not explain theory. Instead, when developing the answer, you have to use the theory which you have learned via your E3, F3, and P3 syllabi. So first things first, let's direct our attention towards advocacy groups, because local communities and environmental groups, as per what's highlighted within this newspaper article, environmental groups as well as local communities are working against us, which is not too good for us. So let's try to figure out how to deal with these advocacy groups. So first things first, we have to look at their level of interest and power. So as per what's highlighted within this newspaper article, these advocacy groups are extremely interested about the way in which we conduct our business. So because of that, their level of interest is high. However, these are several different advocacy groups and local communities, and unless and otherwise they come together individually, their level of power will be extremely less. So advocacy groups, they have a high level of interest, however a low level of power. So when dealing with such stakeholders, when they have a high level of power, high level of interest and a low level of power, we should take steps to keep these individuals informed. That's exactly what you should include within the answer. So we should not negotiate with these stakeholders directly. Instead, we have to use the media to engage with our own narrative about the situation. So the environmental watchdogs, as well as the local communities, or simply put, advocacy groups, are saying negative things about us. So we, with the intention of keeping the public as well as these advocacy groups informed about what we are up to, we have to create our own narrative on media, local media. And on top of that, when trying to keep these guys informed, you might think that we should deal directly with these individuals, which should not be the case. It's not too good to negotiate directly with these advocacy groups, because whatever we say, these individuals and these advocacy groups will have a negative picture about us, because we are operating within in an industry which is not too good for the environment. So whatever we do, even if we shift from our traditional extraction methods to DLE, still these guys will be talking about our carbon emissions and our pollution levels. So there's absolutely no point of directly negotiating with these individuals, because if we try to do so, it might create a ruckus and this will generate additional adverse publicity for us. So we don't need additional adverse publicity because the problems at our disposal are enough at the moment. And on top of that, uh, we are supposed to keep these guys informed, as I mentioned earlier, with the intention of keeping these advocacy groups level of power low, because if not, they can get in touch with the government or push the government to pass legislation as fast as possible. And when this happens, they can harness the power of the government, which will work against us. And on top of that, if these advocacy groups get together, if we try to negotiate with them directly, definitely these advocacy groups will get together. If so, their level of power, which used to be low, will transform to a high power scenario, and this will definitely work against us. So we have to, with the intention of managing these advocacy groups, we have to make sure that we keep their level of power at the lowest level as much as possible. So with that in mind, we have to use local media to engage with these advocacy groups and the local community, thereby explaining what our narrative is concerning these problems. And another stakeholder highlighted within this scenario is the government. Again, we have to say the level of power and interest in order to manage the government. So as I mentioned earlier, any given government has a high level of power, but a low level of interest. So we should try to keep them satisfied by paying taxes on time and falling in line with the rule of law. However, in this question, in this scenario, the government carries a high level of interest as well, because it appears that the government is responding to civil unrest. The government is responding to what the advocacy groups have to say. In response to the growing public outcry, the government is preparing to introduce tough environmental regulations targeting water-intensive industries with lithium mining at the forefront. So the government is actually reacting to these steps taken by the advocacy groups, which indicates the fact that the government in this instance, although it usually has a low level of interest, in this instance, the government has a high level of interest. So the government has a high level of power and high level of interest, and thus the government should be considered as a key player. So this is where your application comes into play, because if you, even after using Mendelow's matrix, because when you learn your theories, you'd learn the fact that the government falls under this quadrant and we should keep them satisfied. They fall under the keep satisfied quadrant. However, as per what is highlighted within your scenario, this is not the case. The government is actually a key player. So the examiner is actually, has created this type of a scenario with the intention of testing whether you have the ability of using the relevant theoretical concept, yet whether you have the ability of applying your knowledge in a practical sense concerning the information presented in your scenario. So as per the scenario, the government is a key player. So how should we deal with a key player? We should listen to a key player at all times and try to satisfy them as much as possible. So we have to engage directly with the government, because when dealing with a key player, we have to listen to them, and we can take steps to change the law if necessary, because if we can see that the law is going to work against us, we can take steps to change the law. And with that in mind, we can engage ourselves with CPA or corporate political activity, thereby conducting lobbying. Any company has the right to spend some effort on lobbying with the intention of explaining to the government about how this law will impact the industry in an adverse manner, and in the long run, how it will impact the economy in an adverse manner. So we have the opportunity of explaining all these things, thereby trying to lobby and reduce the adversities which we might face if this law is passed. So we can engage directly there by carrying out lobbying. And if it is necessary, when carrying out these lobbying initiatives, if we see that we need to change our internal dynamics to fall in line with these regulations, even when even if you are successful in changing the regulations, some type of new regulation might come up. Although we might be adversely affected by it, it will be better to lobby and try to amend the law rather than keeping silent. So in such an environment, if we are to, with the intention of falling in line with new regulations, if we are to change our internal dynamics, we should do so as well. And also, when conducting affairs with the government, we have to explain how the law will impact not just us but other connected stakeholders as well, because manufacturers of lithium batteries depend on us. Those are our clients, not just manufacturers of lithium batteries, pharmaceutical companies, and whatnot. All these players who are using lithium depend on us. So if this law changes our internal dynamics in an adverse manner, then this will adversely impact the stakeholders as well. And on top of that, the logistics providers and different types of suppliers who supply us with heavy machinery. So all these players will be negatively impacted if our industry is negatively impacted. So we should explain all these things and how these things will impact the economy in the long run when getting in touch with the government and carrying out negotiations. Also, we should, as I mentioned earlier, we have to be considerate about clients and logistics providers, how they will be impacted. So it's best that, so these guys will have an extremely high level of interest about the matter, but individually, these players will have a low level of interest. Sorry, a low level of power. So these guys have a high level of interest, but a low level of power. So with the intention of enhancing their level of power, because these guys will definitely talk on behalf of us in a positive manner. So with the intention of enhancing the power of these stakeholders, we have to collaborate with them and make sure that we enhance the power levels collectively. And at the same time, we have to make sure that not just us, but these players fall in line with the standards which we practice within Rotomyne with regards to carbon emissions and environmental protection. And when dealing with the government, we can highlight these things. We can highlight the fact that not just us are focused on achieving lower levels of emissions and protecting the environment. We have also extended these practices and made sure that our clients as well as logistics providers fall in line with our internal standards as well, which makes it easy for us to convince the government. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we can use the clients and logistics providers and ask them to support us to change the law. And when lobbying, we should also mention, as I mentioned earlier, that we are, what we do to save livelihoods of employees and investments of our own shareholders. And on top of that, not just our own shareholders and employees, we are taking steps to safeguard the livelihoods of employees and shareholders of our clients and logistics providers. So all these things should be considered when conducting lobbying initiatives. However, when conducting lobbying, you should be you should not carry it out in an overly excessive manner. If so, the government will not be too pleased to change the laws or listen to us or be influenced by what we say. Also, we have to consider about the competitor Litsdig, because the competitor's name is also mentioned within this newspaper article. So Litsdig, just like us, will have a high level of interest. However, as individually, Litsdig will have a low level of power. But if both our companies get together, the power will increase significantly. So if both companies work together, the power increases, which will help us when dealing with the government, especially when conducting lobbying initiatives. So, these are the things which we need to do to manage each type of stakeholder as per the information presented in the scenario. So it's all about coming up with a practical answer which is totally aligned with the information at hand. So when considering each type of stakeholder, I've considered what appears within this newspaper article, and on top of that, as and when necessary, with the intention of developing a foolproof answer, you should think which theoretical element can I use to enhance the quality of your answer. So I've achieved that as well. I've used the Mendelov matrix, although I've not explained it. I've simply, utilized this technique with the intention of coming up with a high quality answer. So these are the ways in which we should manage our stakeholders and Also, it's best that we conduct our own internal investigation to see whether what's mentioned within the newspaper article is factual. If not, we should go to town about any issues with the newspaper article, thereby explaining our situation via media. And if we find out that what's mentioned within the newspaper article is factual, we have to accept fault publicly. This is the correct thing to do, because this will ensure that the advocacy groups will be satisfied up to a certain extent when we accept our fault publicly rather than keeping mum about it. Then we are sending the message to advocacy groups and the general public, the fact that we are planning to change ourselves. Because if a company wants to change, the first step is to publicly accept responsibility for any issues it has created. So if we find that the newspaper article is accurate, then we have to accept responsibility. After that, we have to also inform the type of steps which we intend to take to mitigate the issues which are highlighted within the newspaper article. And such information should be publicized via our website as well as general media. Okay, so that's how you should develop answers. So just like how I explained this answer, I've developed the 15 master classes. And as I mentioned earlier, in each masterclass, whilst taking you through the structure of each answer, I've taught you the relevant theoretical element and how to work on your application. So if you failed previously, or if you are coming through an exemption route, this is the best way to ensure that you learn all theoretical elements across the 6 mock exams, and at the same time work on application. Because if you learn theories on your own by watching a set of videos or reading through a set of material, you won't know how to work on application. And this is the best way. By gaining access to the master classes, you can easily understand not just theory but application as well. So once you have an answer plan at your disposal such as this, what is your next step? Your next step is to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. So for each valid point, you need to develop a paragraph which consists of 2 to 4 line sentences. So there are different main points. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 main points within this answer. So ideally, you should have 5 different paragraphs within the answer. You can have additional amount of paragraphs as well, because if you feel that when explaining a certain point, within the same point you have various different sub points, then for each sub point you can come up with a paragraph as well. So the best way to understand how to do this is to refer to the suggested answers which we have shared with you, which can be accessed via the student dashboard itself. Then you'd know what to do when it comes to expanding your answer plan in paragraph form. So when doing this, you have to do it within 25 minutes, thereby developing a paragraph per answer point. So that is why answer plans are extremely important to you, because then you'd know how to structure the answer. And at the same time, when conducting revision, I said after watching the master classes, you are supposed to redevelop answer plans. So when you are redeveloping answer plans, since you have already seen the answer plan, since you already know how to structure the answer, try to do this on your own. Try to redevelop answer plans on your own. You need not time it, because the objective of redeveloping answer plans is to conduct your revision, trying to see whether you have gained something via the master classes. So do this on your own. Don't time it. And after you have developed your own answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCS's answer plans to further improve your understanding about your shortcomings and what you need to do to enhance the quality of your answers. So because if you stand a chance to replicate the same type of answer plans when you are redeveloping answer plans, then it indicates the fact that you have gained a holistic understanding of how to structure your answers concerning each question covered within our 6 mock exams. So that's what you are supposed to do when conducting revision. And when redeveloping answer plans, always focus your attention towards understanding the logic behind each answer. Don't try to memorize this answer plan. That should not be the objective, because at the exam, there will be a question about stakeholder management, but the scenario will be completely different. There could be a completely different set of stakeholders. So there's absolutely no point of memorizing this answer plan. The objective should be to understand the logic behind each answer, understand how to bring in theoretical knowledge, thereby working on your application, and as and when necessary, how to bring in pre-seen information. So there's nothing to do with the pre-seen information within this answer, because there's no point of bringing in pre-seen info because it has nothing to do with the scenario at hand. However, if you look at the answer plan which we have developed for the first subtask, I've mentioned about a beta value, because within the scenario itself, there's a mention about the beta increasing. Yeah, all these things are there. Okay, so there's a mention about the beta increasing as per financial analysts' comments. Okay, so that's exactly why I've mentioned about the current beta, because when evaluating about the beta, you need to talk about the current beta, and if it increases, how it is going to impact us as a company. So that's how we are supposed to focus on your answering technique. So although you have learned these things, you'd struggle with answering and time management when you're trying to implement it for the first time. That's totally fine. Keep repeating the same techniques over and over, because once you're done with the 6 mock exams, you would have replicated the answering technique under exam conditions 18 times over. That is enough and more practice for you to get it right at your real examination. So practice answering technique by attempting mock number 1 via TCS's exam platform, which appears under free content. And if you want to invest, if you're interested in investing on our paid content, then you have the opportunity of fine-tuning your answering and time management techniques across the remaining 5 mock exams. Okay, so there could be a set of students who are coming through, who are attending this webinar, who unfortunately ended up failing the previous sitting, which happened in November 2024. So when conducting preparations focused on the upcoming SCS session, you need to, try to figure out whether you gave your best last time. So, I'm going to, in a little while, I'm going to share some thoughts about common mistakes students, are faced with, or common mistakes practiced by students. And for each mistake, I'm going to highlight a solution. And after I'm done with these things, probably when conducting your personal reflection, you should think about, okay, whether you, practice the same, or whether you face the same type of issues, or you practice the same type of mistakes when conducting your preparations, and you need to take steps to avoid each type of issue in order to be successful in your next sitting. So you have to conduct your own personal reflection. You have to be true to yourself and see whether you gave your 100% last time or not, because this is a tough examination. This is the toughest exam, the SCS exam. Why is this the case? Because you cannot simply, just because you know your theory, you can't pass. It's all about application. So it's not too easy, because the exam is not direct about the theoretical elements which are tested. For instance, if there's a question in your operational case study, if there's a question about variance analysis, the examiner directly says, okay, evaluate each variance. But in this examination, that is not the case. You are supposed to evaluate certain things, and then you are expected to bring in theoretical knowledge and know which concept you should use. So it's not easy. So you have to conduct your own personal reflection and see what went wrong last time, and whether you were really serious when conducting preparation, or whether you started preparing in the last 2 weeks, and because of that, whether you failed your examination. So you need to diagnose the issues first and address each of these issues. And the best way to gain an understanding of what you should have achieved is to refer to our mock exams, the suggested answers and the answer plans. Then you will gain a good understanding of the type of answers you should produce in order to be successful at your examination. And last time when conducting preparations, you might not have opted for tutor feedback. When it comes to tutor feedback, I'm not talking about you simply getting marks, because the marks won't paint a clearer picture. You need to really understand what your shortcomings are. Just because you have marks, you won't know what your shortcomings are. So if you didn't opt for tutor feedback last time, definitely, and if you ended up failing last time, definitely you have to opt for tutor feedback this time, because on your own, you won't have the capability of understanding what your shortcomings are. It's best that you opt for fully fledged tutor feedback this time. And the action plan, after you have conducted your personal reflection, you need to develop an action plan, which is to work smarter than the previous attempt, thereby avoiding all unnecessary issues, which is to stick to our study plan. So I'm going to take you through the study plan in a little while, the 5-week study plan. Then you'd know what to do and what to avoid when conducting your preparations in the upcoming 5 weeks. All right, so what are the common reasons which leads to a failure? Issue number one is practicing just 2 or 3 mock exams. So students think that they can pass this exam comfortably by attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams. As I mentioned earlier, any syllabus element which is covered in your E3, F3, or P3 syllabi can be tested at the exam. So with the intention of ensuring that you know how each syllabus area is tested, you have to practice 6 mock exams. So if you had gone through past exam variants, you would have seen 6 different variants developed for each pre-scene. So the examiner develops 6 variants with the intention of covering all syllabus elements. So when conducting your preparations, you need to stick to a similar methodology as well. You need to gain a good understanding of how each syllabus area is tested. So in order to cover all theoretical elements, you have to attempt 6 mock exams. You cannot pass this exam simply by testing your luck, thereby attempting 2 or 3 mock exams. And another problem is the fact that most students do not practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. Instead, students tend to attempt 1 or 2 mock exams under exam conditions. And concerning the remaining mock exams, there's a tendency among students to go through the questions and answers rather than really attempting the mock exam. Just because you go through the mock exam and its suggested answer, you won't gain a good understanding of how to develop similar answers at your real examination, because the scenarios which appear within the mock exams will not be the same at your real examination. The theoretical elements will be the same, but the scenarios will be quite different. So if you don't really attempt each mock exam under exam conditions, you will not master your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. And on top of that, you won't know how to tackle each type of question in a successful manner. You won't know how to structure each answer in a successful manner. So it's essential that you attempt each mock exam under exam conditions with the intention of fine-tuning your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. And also, when most students fail because there are issues with technical knowledge and mainly application skills. So if you are coming through an exemption route, definitely you will have gaps in theoretical knowledge. So if you don't know all the theories which are covered within E3, F3, and P3 syllabi, then you won't be successful at your exam. So if you're coming through an exemption route, it's essential that you learn your theory. And as I mentioned earlier, just because you know your theory, you won't pass. You need to work on your application skills. So with this in mind, you have to, in order to learn theory and application, it's essential to watch the master classes, and on top of that, redevelop answer plans. Once you have redeveloped your answer plans, compare them to TCS's answer plans to further enhance your understanding about technical knowledge as well as application skills. And some students rely on past exam variants and based on them try to conduct their preparations. This is highly discouraged, because past exam variants are based on a totally different pre-scene document. So what appears within a previous pre-scene is the industry dynamics as well as the internal dynamics and financial statements are totally different to Rotomyne's situation. So simply put, if you look at the risk report of Rotomyne, it is quite different to the previous sittings pre-scene. So there are 6 different risks mentioned within the risk report of Rotomyne, and the type of mitigatory action adopted by the company appears within the same risk report as well. So when attempting mock exams, you have to make sure that your mocks are totally aligned with your pre-scene. So when conducting your preparations, you have to make sure that all these six risks which appear within your pre-scene is covered in the mock exams. Not just these six risks which does not appear within your risk report might be tested at your real exam. So if that is the case, you need to gain a good understanding of how to identify each type of risk and to come up with appropriate mitigatory action. And at the same time, you need to know how to update the risk register. So the type of risks which are relevant for Rotomyne will be totally different to another company. So simply because of the fact that you go through past exam variants, I'm just giving an example. So if you go through past exam variants and try to understand how to tackle a question to do with risk identification and management, you won't gain a clearer picture because the answers which appear within past exam variants are totally relevant to a different pre-scene, a different risk report. And the same applies to the vision, mission, objectives, the corporate governance practiced within your company, the internal dynamics, external dynamics, the gearing rates, the beta values. All these things will be quite different. So if you try to conduct your preparations based on past exam variants, you'd be going along the incorrect or on a wrong path. Rather than doing so, you need to focus your attention towards attempting mock exams which are pre-scene specific and exam standard. And inappropriate answering technique is a killer. 99% of students out there, right after reading through the scenario, they start typing out the fully fledged answer. When typing the answer, I've seen students developing salutations such as mentioning to, from, subject, and date. You are not responding to a report. You are not developing a report. Rather, you are responding to an email. So you should get to the point straight away. That's exactly what I did when I was explaining you the answer. You should get to the point straight away because there's absolutely no point of coming up with or developing salutations. And on top of that, I've seen students coming up with an introductory paragraph, and in each answer, there's a tendency for students to come up with a set of recommendations and a conclusion. If the scenario is asking you to evaluate something, what's the point of coming up with recommendations? What's the point of coming up with conclusions when you are responding to an email? What's the point of coming up with an introductory paragraph when your boss is not too interested to go through what appears within the introductory paragraph? Because most students in the introductory paragraph, they simply reiterate what appears within the scenario or the reference material, or they bring in general information from the pre-scene. When marking your papers, I've seen this. Most students start the answer by stipulating the fact that Rotomyne is a company which is into lithium mining, and we operate 9 different mines spread across 7 different countries, and we are selling to 90 different countries. So you come up with such an introductory paragraph which makes absolutely no sense, because you are receiving an email from your CFO or some other board member, and the board members are already aware of what we are up to, who we supply to, how many mines we have, and in which countries we are located. So there's absolutely no point of highlighting these things. So these type of things are considered as inappropriate answering technique. And if you do so, you'd end up wasting a lot of time. And as I mentioned earlier, most students, right after reading through the scenario, start typing the answer. And halfway through, all of a sudden, you realize that you're headed in the wrong direction. Then you'd end up, deleting your answer, and you'd have to start from scratch. When this happens, your brain will constantly keep telling you that you have wasted a lot of time. So you'd be exposed to extreme levels of stress. If that is the case, you'd be exposed to brain freeze. So when you are supposed to focus on your answers, you can't do so, because you have faced some inefficiencies. Due to these inefficiencies, you have wasted a lot of time and you are under intense levels of pressure. So if so, you will fail your SCS exam. So in order to get your answering technique and time management right, stick to the answering and time management technique which you learned in today's webinar. And not just learning them will help you. you'd have to keep repeating these techniques across the 6 mock exams with the intention of mastering these techniques. So most students, run out of time at their real exam. If you run out of time, you will come up with rushed answers or half-hearted answers. If so, you won't pass this exam. And most students do not spend time on revision. You need to compare your answer with the suggested answers or the answer plans. Most students don't do this. That's exactly why I said there's absolutely no point of attempting all 6 mock exams. You need to take steps to refine your answers, refine the quality of your answers. So with this in mind, you have to conduct your own revision, which is to compare your answers with the suggested answers, or you need to compare your answer plans to TCS's answer plans. And the best way to understand your shortcomings is to opt for tutor feedback this time. So you need to really focus your attention towards revision. That is exactly why we have developed master classes, and we are asking and we are sharing answer plans with you with the intention of making sure that you cover revision in a foolproof manner. If so, you'd see for yourself that the quality of your answers will significantly improve by the time you are at your real examination. And lastly, not adhering to a study plan is an issue. Most students think that they can wait until the last 2 or 3 weeks to start preparations, which is not recommended. So most students start 2 weeks before the exam. Although you'd have time to attempt all 6 mock exams, you won't have time to refine the quality of your answers. You won't have time to revise or conduct revision based on redeveloping answer plans. You won't have time to watch the master classes. So in order to avoid all these things, you need to stick to a certain study plan. So as per our records, 3 students have already started their preparations. They are sticking to the 8-week study plan. So if you're part of this webinar, kudos to you. Keep up the good work. And if you're yet to start your preparations, don't worry. I'm going to share a 5-week study plan in a little while. You still have time to attempt all 6 mock exams, watch all master classes, and redevelop answer plans concerning these 6 mock exams. So you have enough time to attempt all 6 mocks and conduct your revision. So these are the issues which are faced by students, and you are supposed to avoid them. I explained how to overcome each of these issues. So you are supposed to avoid them when conducting your preparation. So I said that you need to conduct a personal reflection. So when you are reflecting on what you did last time, try to see whether you encountered these issues, or try to see whether you practiced these inefficiencies. If so, you need to take steps to avoid them in this sitting. All right, so having said that, we are moving to the last part of today's webinar. As I mentioned at the inception of this webinar, I'm going to share a 5-week study plan with you. So week number 1 and 2 are going to be hectic. Why is this the case? Because you have already missed out on 2 weeks of work. So because of that, you would have to work a bit hard within weeks 1 and 2. So week 1 starts ideally from Monday, and Monday to Sunday is week number 1, and you need to stick to a similar approach when it comes to the other weeks as well. So you can see that a chunk of work happens within this week. However, your responsibilities keep reducing significantly, because in week number 3, you are supposed to allocate just 9 hours of study time per week. And week number 4, again, 9 hours. And a week before your exam, you need to put in 12 hours. Although you are supposed to put in 12 hours of study time, you are simply supposed to redevelop answer plans. So it's an easy task because you are redeveloping answer plans for the second time a week before your exam, which is the best type of revision you should conduct. So let's try to figure out what you're supposed to do. So first things first, you have to watch the pre-scene analysis videos in order to gain a good understanding of what appears within your pre-scene, which is going to take 3 hours of your time. Then refer to the financial analysis, industry analysis, and top 10 issue slides, which is going to take 2 hours of your time. And then watch the recorded version of this webinar. If you joined us halfway through, or if you missed certain parts of this webinar, you are supposed to do this, or else you can forget about it if you were part and parcel of the entire webinar. So before you start mock attempts, you need to learn your answering technique. Okay, so that's why I've included this in here, which will take 1.5 hours of your time. Then you have to start your mock attempts. So after learning answering technique, implement these techniques by attempting mock number 1 via the exam platform. Once you are done with it, don't try to work out answer plans because you are still struggling with the answering technique. Once you're done with mock number 1, directly focus your attention towards mock number 2. So attempt mock number 2 via the exam platform. After doing so, watch the master classes to learn theory and improve application, and test your knowledge as to whether you have gained something via these master classes by redeveloping answer plans on your own concerning mock number 2. So, you can take 2 hours or more. You can do it. You are supposed to do it leisurely with the intention of understanding the logic behind each answer and refining your answers as much as possible. Then in the second week, you need to allocate 17 hours of study time, in which you are supposed to attempt mock number 3, then watch the master classes to learn theory and improve application, and then redevelop answer plan, thereby conducting your revision. Stick to a similar approach within the same week, focused on mock number 4, attempt it, watch the master classes and redevelop answer plans. And from the second, from mock 4 onwards, you will receive tutor feedback. So after you have watched the master classes, redevelop answer plans, and once you receive tutor feedback, again redevelop answer plans focused on the subtasks which are highlighted in yellow. And from week 3 onwards, life becomes easy because it's simply a matter of allocating 9 hours of study time as per our initial 8-week study plan, where you have to focus your attention towards mock number 5. You need to stick to this 3-step process once more. Attempt the mock, watch the master classes, and redevelop answer plans. And after receiving tutor feedback, again redevelop answer plans focused on the subtasks in which your performance was substandard. And in week number 4, again, direct your attention towards mock number 6, thereby allocating 9 hours of study time. And a week before your exam, when all the other students are scrambling for time, when they are trying to attempt mock exams, when they are under extreme levels of stress, you are relaxing. You are simply focusing your attention towards revision. So within this week, you are supposed to develop the answer plans of all 6 mock exams. Typically, it will take 2 hours of your time, because by this time you have already redeveloped answer plans focused on the 6 mocks. So you'd have a greater level of understanding of how to structure each answer. So it will only take 2 hours or less when it comes to redeveloping answer plans. So when you are redeveloping answer plans, you are making sure that you are going through the entire syllabus. You are going through all syllabus elements when it comes to redeveloping answer plans focused on the 6 mock exams. And at the same time, you are again revising about how to work on application concerning each theoretical element. So this is the best type of revision you should conduct a week before your exam. And when doing so, you'd gain a higher level of confidence, because you know for a fact that already you have gone through each mock exam thrice. Why am I saying this? Because you go through a mock exam when you're attempting it. For the second time, you go through it when you're watching the master classes. For the third time, you go through it when you are redeveloping answer plans. And a week before the exam, again, you are redeveloping answer plans, thereby going through the same mock exams for the 4th time. And in the exam week, you are supposed to allocate just 7 hours of study time, in which you are simply supposed to refer to the answer plan. So you are going through the same 6 mock exams for the 5th time before you walk into the exam. So if you stick to this process, you are not just attempting mock exams, you are conducting revision. And what type of revision am I talking about? You are going through each mock exam 5 times over. And by this time, you would have mastered or championed your answering and time management as well as stress management techniques. And if you stick to this study plan, you will walk into your exam without any stresses, because you know for a fact that you have gone through each mock exam 5 times. This will be completely different to what you did in your previous sitting, because most students attempt just 2 or 3 mock exams. So rather than attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams once, you are going through 6 mock exams 5 times over. And by that time, you know for a fact that you know how to structure answers properly, how to work on your application, You will never run out of time. And at the same time, you'd know how to manage your stress levels. And reread the annotated pre-scene um, as the last activity of the study plan, and stop all work 2 days prior to the exam and start resting. Because if you stick to the study plan, you are done with everything. I want you to walk into the exam with a positive mindset, with an open mind. I do not want you to, that's exactly why I said you are not supposed to memorize the answer plans. Instead, try to get the logic of each answer. And once you have completed all your preparations, rest for 2 days. This will ensure that you are relaxed both mentally and physically, and this will be extremely beneficial for you at your real exam. Because as I mentioned earlier, the scenarios will be a bit different, but you'd know how to develop answers which are totally aligned with each requirement, aligned with each scenario. So in order to achieve this, you need to have a high level of open-mindedness. You can achieve just that if you start relaxing 2 days before the exam. Because in a real life corporate setting, let's assume you are walking into office on Monday. On Saturday and Sunday, if you are up till late and if you are partying or if you are exposed to extreme levels of stress, can you function successfully? You can't. So in order to be successful at this exam, put in the hard work from Monday. And if you stick to the study plan, you can stop all work 2 days before the exam and start relaxing. Actually speaking, a week before the exam, you'd start relaxing, because you are simply supposed to redevelop answer plans when everyone else is trying to do everything under the sun. So if you stick to the study plan, you are avoiding all unnecessary preparatory activities. You are not going through your past notes or your study texts. You are not trying to memorize theory, because there's absolutely no point of memorizing theory if you don't know how to apply these theoretical concepts. So you have master classes at your disposal. You are redeveloping answer plans. So that is what is necessary to pass this examination. So I hope you'd stick to this study plan. And after this session, I will share the same study plan via the WhatsApp group as well. And those who stuck to our study plan, passed the SCS exam comfortably. As you can see, this individual passed all three case studies in 3-month intervals. So in each session, this individual attempted OCS, MCS, and SCS, strictly sticking to our study plan, and achieved a first time pass, and completed CIMA under the FLP route, completed CIMA examinations within just 9 months. So we achieved a 97% pass rate in our August sitting. And in next week's webinar, I will share with you the pass rates for the session which concluded, which the results were released last Thursday. Okay, so I'm gonna start the Q&A session. So let me pause the recording. All right, folks. So thank you very much for asking these questions. I hope I addressed everything. And if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. Go to our website and click on the contact button and drop your message in here. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours. And you can also email us at info@study@tcs.com, or simply WhatsApp us on this number. You can directly reach me via this number. And I invite you guys to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because the recorded versions of each of these webinars and workshops are uploaded to our YouTube handle. And once you gain access to the TikTok handle, you'd benefit from a set of videos, which is a good pre-scene mind map. So keep watching these TikTok videos in the upcoming 5 weeks on your way to office, for instance, with the intention of keeping yourself reminded of what appears within your pre-scene document. So having said that, it brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you very much for joining in, and I expect you guys to keep practicing the answering and time management techniques which you learned today when practicing the upcoming 6 mock exams. And also, I hope you'd stick to the 5-week study plan which we shared with you, and if so, you will pass for sure. So I expect to see you guys in next week's webinar, in which I'm going to take you through examiners' comments. I'm going to share some tips to make sure you develop your level of confidence, and at the same time, I'm going to share stress management techniques with you. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next week.